Well, Zach is on the call with me today. Zach Lyman, how's it going, sir?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Just kind of riding the pandemic out, which is it's one of those things called a long tail curve. it didn't
Yeah.
it didn't dip out after 4 or 5 months. It's here for a year or more. So just kind of having fun with it and hitting the internet more than I probably used to, looking around and spending probably more time on Facebook than I should. And that's where I saw something you posted the other day, and I'm like, daggone, I need to catch up with Zach. Um,
Yeah.
and you've got a lot of stuff to share with us today, social media and other things. But for people who don't know Zach Lyman, haven't bumped into you online, give us a snapshot of where you are, how long you've been doing some comedy, and what you're up to.
Yeah. I'm about 12 years into comedy, and in that time period, I've had a lot of odd jobs, and some of that is marketing is one of the things I've kind of stumbled into over the years. I spent a lot of time working in coffee, and then working for coffee roasters as a marketing director. In comedy, I'm very much a do-it-yourself type of person, and I put my own tours together, and I travel the U.S. normally, and kind of like sell my own merch and stuff. So very much like DIY. How do I how do I do it myself type of comedian.
That's cool. And you got started in Louisville, but were you from Arizona originally?
Yeah, I was from originally Arizona. Mostly, most of my life I've been in Arizona. I lived in Louisville for about 5 years. So
And that time you were in Louisville, who were some of the comics you hung out with and liked to go see? Because Louisville has always had a creative comedy scene and pretty supportive community, I think.
yeah, Louisville's great. I hung out with like Nick Fuller and Jacob Williams, who was actually on America's Got Talent, and then Renan Hirschberg is another great comic from there. Yeah, so many great very talented comedians. I remember when I first got there and I started seeing these people do their own hours and put together their shows. I was like, oh wow, I gotta really step up my game.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I always thought of Louisville as having some very creative people, and as comedians, they took a lot of risk on stage that some other pockets of the country they were a little bit more simple and straight ahead. But Louisville, you had some people who could go way out on the limb and be almost absurd at times, politically challenging, the whole gamut. So it was always a fun place to pop into and work for the week. And I
Yeah.
spent most of the '90s going in and out of Louisville Comedy Caravan and different places around there. And just
Yeah.
every time I pop back in, they'd have somebody else opening the show. I'm like, I've never heard of this guy. Oh, he's crushing it. It's a community that's had so many stages at the time. The '90s was kind
Yeah.
of a heyday for open mics and whatnot, and clubs even to a degree, but just a lot of creativity. So that's cool. So you've been back in Arizona for how long now?
Oh man. Well, I've been back here for about 2 years, but before I lived in Washington for 2 years. So I've been hopping around a little bit, but yeah, Phoenix now for two.
Okay, cool. I've got a lot of buddies in Phoenix. Remind me on the way out of the episode to connect you with those guys. There's
Nice.
a five or six at least good buddies of mine
Yeah.
that live there. So cool.
Yeah, Phoenix, I mean, amazing comedy scene and growing, and we have, way more clubs now than when I started. But like, people don't really think of Phoenix, but it's a big place for comedy.
It's a hot comedy scene, and but it's dry. It's a dry comedy scene as well. The comedy is not even whatsoever. It's just a lot of dry, arid comedy.
Yeah, yeah.
That's hilarious. So, a few things I want to talk to you about today that I kind of fall short on in my podcast quite a bit, and I will mention to the folks listening to Zach's got a really cool podcast. I'll tell you about it at the end. But you were in your consulting job during the day. You work with marketing and Facebook pixels and those kinds of things. And I'm
Yeah.
sort of aware, and I've tried to do it before, and my links to my pixels don't always work, and I get kind of confused and just abandon it. And I know that there's some high quality value in retargeting and things like that when you have that pixel and place it on your website in different destinations. So I guess start off kind of broad and just let us know what is a pixel and how do people use it, and then we'll get more specific in how comics can get into it.
Yeah, I like to just think of the pixel as like a line of code that you connect to most likely your website. There's other options you could do, but for comics and stuff, I suggest for your website. So you put that code into your website, and then all you're doing is you're telling Facebook hey, this is where I want them to go. And then Facebook figures out their actions of subscribing to your email, or like if they bought your merch or any of that. And so it just can track when you're running like an ad where they come from and what they do when they get there. So it's super helpful for not only learning about your own website, of like realizing, hey, no one, or 70 people seem to add the hats I sell to their cart, but they don't ever finalize the purchase. You're like, there's something up with that. Is that the price? Is it the shipping? It can kind of get you thinking in general with, and that's free. But it's also great for like retargeting ads. So if you have tons of traffic going to your website and you've been running all these ads, or maybe you're in the news and you're getting all this traffic, you can then go and run that back. And so you can get those same people in ads by doing retargeting. And it's a great way to kind of finalize some sales. Maybe those 70 people that add the hat to the cart never closed it. You can run an ad that's like, hey, I saw you never really finished your purchase. Head back over to my website. And because sometimes people just need a reminder. It's very easy to open an ad and go to the website, and then you forget because you're getting onto the subway, or you're on the train or something, and you just close out of it and you move on with your life. So those quick reminders really do help.
No, I think that's exactly right with Facebook, because I never jump on there unless I'm trying just to distract myself in line somewhere.
Yeah.
I never sit down at the computer and go, here's my Facebook hour. It's always an hour throughout the day, 3 minutes here and 3 minutes there. And, just checking to see if I've got a message here or there that has to do with School of Laughs primarily. But yeah, I end up closing out of ads. And then sure enough, I pop open the thing later on, and there's an ad reminding me, oh yeah, here's what we're looking at earlier.
Yeah, I think it's helpful because I'm the same way. I'll click on something and I'll be like, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And then I look up from my phone and it's gone. It's just completely out of my brain.
I'm curious, and this may be a question that has no answer. So if you jump on Facebook through the browser, like DuckDuckGo, which doesn't track you, Facebook is still tracking where that pixel is being opened up, or does DuckDuckGo kind of put up a force field around that information?
If you're using a browser and you're logged in, I would say it's still going to go because it doesn't really need, it doesn't need a lot of info, and also it doesn't need to be super accurate. It can kind of be like an unknown person. They're like, they don't realize it's Rick, but they're like, an unknown person has gone and done these steps from this click. So it can kind of vary of like how detailed it is and how much info they can gather. If you go to that website and then you put in your email address and they go, yes, that is Rick. But it's I believe something like that would still kind of track.
And when you create a Facebook pixel, do you just have one that Facebook uses for everything you do, or can you create different ones for different ad campaigns and specific things?
You can create different ones if you have like a business account, or you have like you're managing like a business page of some sort. You can create more. They really kind of make you want to stick to having one for yourself. So personally, you get one, and that's usually enough because normally you can just run it to the one page or whatever. If you have multiple things going on, I would just because you can always go back and edit and change it and like switch it over to something else, which of course there's a time of setting up and changing and all that happens, but you can go in there and change it for something else. But I would just pick something that that need more sales about, or you need more info about, that's like you're really watching, versus something, like for me, it's like my merch is like what I need for. I don't really need the Facebook pixel so much for like, if I just had like a landing page only for like signing up for my email or something.
Right. So let's say like for School of Laughs, if I'm going to offer the Business of Comedy class on January 23rd from 1 to 4 p.m. Spots are still available, and I wanted to track that ad.
Yeah.
The Facebook pixel is a great thing to use because I can retarget those people if they opened it and said, I'll get to it later or whatever. So just kind
Yes.
of keep reminding them as they open it up that this is an option.
Yeah.
And for a guy like me, so I've got the School of Laughs, but I've also got Rick Roberts, full-time comedian and speaker.
Right.
So in that case, it seems like I'd want two different pixels, one for Rick and one for School of Laughs.
Yeah, for you have two very different things that are kind of happening at the same time. So yeah, I would look at setting up two pixels, and I'm saying this, but like every day Facebook changes. So at the same time, another suggestion is maybe making like I've done this in the past, so I'm making like a dummy account where I just sign up with like just another email or whatever, and I have an actual Facebook account that is set up just for ads, and then I can go in there and I can have it connected to everything else and have its own pixel, and then I could just switch between the two. That's like if you can't find other ways to get more than one pixel, that's a quick way to do it.
I got you. And most of my accounts are dummy accounts because I'm the one that set them up. So that's going to work.
You're like, okay, these are my accounts. I got it.
This is built for me.
Yeah. It's like he's talking to me.
Yeah. So like for me personally, my main website, I would want to know the contact page, the contact form. That's
Mhm.
where I really want to make sure people visit. So when I run ads or anything with, I've done landing pages specifically in the past where the only option they have is to give me their email address. I could target people that got to that page and still didn't give me their email address, but I'm in their face again, just reminding them, hey, I'm still here. I can see where that'd be very helpful.
Yeah.
So also on the back end of things, once you've got the pixel set up, it's getting your ads getting some traction, so that's getting some information. What kind of analytics do you have on the backside to show you things you can improve on, or just the results you're getting in general?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's tons of ways you could look at that. Like as soon as we're talking about this, I was thinking about, well, Rick, if you had a video that really like took off, you can also just, using the Facebook pixel is helpful with this, but I'm also saying that if you have a video that takes off, you can then run an ad to people that watched 80% of that video. And that's another way of like retargeting the same group. And so, I think using that information of how many people watched and then like looking at like add to cart subscribers, these are numbers that I always look at.
Mhm.
And if you have some kind of version of an add to cart, that's like the main number I pay attention to, because if you have 0 add to carts and you have 0, it's like, okay, I'm doing something wrong right away from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe it's the ad itself, maybe it's like I had a friend recently that I was helping him out with his ads, and he was doing this thing where he was like, if you do this challenge, he owns a gym, and he's like, if you do this challenge and you don't finish this challenge, I will give you money, like I will give you money if you don't see the result. And the way his ad was worded, it seemed as if people had to pay him that money. It was very much this like just a miscommunication from day one situation.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was like, oh, I got to just change this ad. And then immediately he got the add to carts and got the final, but it was like just from the beginning. So those are the stages that I look at. And then when I'm getting all those add to carts and they're not closing, then I go, is it the price? Is it shipping? Or is it the photos on the website? Or how easy is the website? And I started just kind of like picking apart like every single stage as a customer,
Mm-hmm.
using Facebook Pixel, and Facebook Ad Manager is another big one. So
Gotcha. And I think the useful thing too there's a lot of useful things with the analytics on the back end, the how long they watch the video for. If nobody watches more than 80% of it, then just make it 20% shorter, or maybe 30% shorter, so people see all of it, because that is a bell going off for Facebook, like, hey, people are watching the whole thing, let's put it out to more people.
Right.
And Facebook obviously wants your ad to succeed because they get paid when you're running ads, so they're going to do everything on their side of it to show it to the right people, and then retarget to those people again, hoping to convert. Because the other thing too with that, just there's a million things you can do with Facebook ads, but seeing how you set up the ad to succeed in the first place, whether it's just you want a general reach, you want a lot of people to see it, you want a lot of people to click on it, or you want a lot of people to sign up. There's all these different things that determine how you're paying for your ad. And I think the mistake some people make is they try to find the thing that costs them the least, but that also might be the thing that gives you the least amount of customers and return on your investment.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And that's something I look at is if I never ran an ad for you before and we're going to start doing this campaign, step one to build like the right audience and make sure I'm running it to the right people is I'll take like some good ads that we all decide that the photos or the video is great. And then I run it using just like a cost per click. So that's how we're paying for it. And I just try to get like a really low cost per click. So I'll try to get it down to like, depending on your industry, but as cheap as possible, pennies, right? It's the goal. And then that just tells me, okay, there's interest here. There is interest. But at the same time, just because there's thousands of people clicking a link doesn't really mean that thousands of people want to buy it. It just means that a lot of people saw it and enough clicked. So it gives me the gauge that we're heading in the right direction, but it doesn't 100% mean that as soon as we switch it over to set up to track purchases, that people are going to be like, yeah, and 100% sign up. So I always like suggest of like, those are the stages: build your audience using the cost per click and getting that cheaply, that info and learning about the add to carts. And then later switching, when you build the ad out, switching it to tracking add to carts or tracking purchases. Because those numbers, they could be the same numbers, but how you're going to see them in the ad manager could scare you, really, because you're like thousands of people, pennies per click, and then they switch it over to it's $40 a purchase, and they could be the same numbers, but it's just like how much cost to get there. So
I like that. I mean, if you started with the second phase with the per purchase, then you may not see any results in your ad because people haven't got to know you enough to make that purchase.
Yeah.
And so you may never pay that rate, but nobody's bought your thing either. But I like the idea of building that audience of people you can retarget. So here's a broad group of people who kind of are interested in what I'm in. I'm going to retarget now and get to see who's going to buy. And so I'm going to send the ad just to those people that saw the first one, but now there's a call to action to purchase or what have you.
Yeah.
And you're not trying to do that with a bunch of general people who might click on it and bump out, which will just tell the analytics that your ad was bad when maybe it wasn't. It just wasn't going to the right people within that group, the subset in that group.
Yeah, 100%. Like when I look at the data, like before I make that switch or I do any of those changes, while I'm still in the cost per click area, I look at, is it men that are 25 to 35 that seem to be clicking the most, and then I narrow that down, because then when you switch over, that's going to help you, because then it's only going to show to people that truly are interested. And for like, comics or anyone that's like starting a business, like when you're in the early stages and you're not in Forbes magazine or GQ or something where like people have kind of heard of the name, you're starting from scratch. And so I'm always like, when I talk to people, I'm like, let's just drive as much as possible. Let's be as broad as possible, all age range, everyone's welcome. And then start there and exactly like build it where it's like, okay, these are the people mostly interested. But again, I could turn around and just do the retargeting for broad again and be like, maybe there is a 19-year-old in Nebraska that's really interested in my hats. And you're not going to miss those tiny little sales. So like those are like things that I run constantly, is like maybe a very targeted ad. And then I also have like a broader ad that's kind of getting everyone at like a low cost. Like I'm just trying to pick up all the things that we're missing. So
yeah, I like that. And if you're looking at the sales in terms of a gig, if you're a corporate speaker and you're making several grand on a gig, then it may not be a big deal if you're getting qualified leads at $15-20 a piece.
Yeah.
To spend that much. And then even if it's not time for them to buy, you've collected their information and you can hit them up when it is time to buy. So lots of different ways to look at it. And, I love the idea of experimenting with the broad group first to see if there's general interest, kind of a proof of concept, idea.
Yeah. I have friends that have businesses that where when they get a customer, you know, they know that it's going to be a long term, not just this one gig. So they look at it very much that way, where it's like the returning revenue of it. So if, you know, it costs them $300 to close that deal, they're like, no sweat off their back, because they're like, it's, you know, I'm going to immediately make 600, and then that's going to continue, you know? So, like, don't get scared of those numbers, but, you know, I've also worked, like I've said, in coffee for so long, where you're selling bags of coffee and you're like, I have to get it at this low, you know, you really have to know what you're doing to sell, because, you know, you're selling a $18 bag of coffee, and you only have so much money available in that margin to really push towards ads.
Yeah, it's true. You know, I always tell people in my business class, it costs the same amount of money to run a bad ad as it does to do a great ad.
Yeah.
As it is Facebook for a $5 product as it is for a $5,000 product. You know, it's costing you the same, you know, initially anyway, to run those ads. So why not have, you know, you don't have too many calls to action like the menu at the Cheesecake Factory, where the people are like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. There's 75. But but I always think it's nice to give them a second option, and they're like, oh, I don't have the $100, but I've got the $20 or something.
Right. Because or reduce it to the ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of just like $1 a day type of thing. So.
Yeah, I like that idea too. That's coffee talk right there, isn't it? For pennies a day.
Yeah.
You didn't work for Starbucks. So that's $5 a time.
Yeah.
That's funny, man. And I know you've got a downloadable kind of tip sheet for people who are kind of interested in this stuff too. So I'll make sure to link to that in the show notes.
Yeah. I spent like 9 months putting this PDF together, and it's just like really for my own sake, just like, you know, in comedy, where it's like when you're all of a sudden you're teaching a comedy class or something, or you're kind of like reevaluating, like, how do I write jokes, or how do I, you know, I was doing that with ads over the last year, of just like, what is my process? Because like, it's all in my head, and I've been doing it for so long, and I've never really put it down on paper of exactly how I work through things. So it was nice. And I kind of made it just into a step-by-step guide, and each page is just kind of like, hey, we're at this stage right now, and these are things that I'm looking at, and these are numbers. And then I also give you like a guideline of how long I normally spend in that stage. You know, like a week to 2 weeks, or, you know, and then I even will put in there, like, you know, repeat this process, because it's like, you know, you finish one ad and you're like, great. And then you got to start over, but now you have so much information. So it's kind of like, you can go through it at all stages of ads and look at it.
Gotcha. And I'll just see if you have the same frustration I do sometimes with Facebook ads, to where they want to really limit how much text is on the image.
Yeah.
But yet they're like, hey, if you have subtitles, it really helps sell things. So put subtitles in the video. It's like, I can't even get a thumbnail of the video because I've got a subtitle in there, and you're penalizing me because it takes up 2 of the 9 squares in your grid. Like, those things would just take years off my life when I try to put the ad together sometimes.
Oh, man. Well, you know, one of the frustrations is I'm always scared about an ad being turned down. Like, that's like, just in general, turned down is like my biggest fear, because people that run ads all the time know that Facebook will just be like, yeah, not this one. And you're like, why not this one? And they're like, yeah, I don't know. And you're like, great, that's super helpful for me creating the next one.
Right. Yeah, it's good for giving you their feedback on what they're not going to do for you, but they're not going to tell you how to make it better for them.
Yeah. No advice.
Yeah, we are all just working for the machines at this point. You know,
yeah.
I thought long and hard about that this morning. It's like, we are just feeding the machines stuff that turn us against each other sometimes, you know. So it's already happened. George Orwell was way ahead of his time.
You sound like you've been in quarantine, Rick.
Oh my goodness, you know. I don't even know that quarantine works. I saw this morning that 2 bears, or what were they, gorillas in the San Diego Zoo got COVID. I'm like, they've been in quarantine for 20 years, and how'd they get it? Who put the Q-tip up their nose? This is ridiculous. You know, these bears are like, come on, we're bears. When are we going to get the vaccine? In the Q4 of 2028? We're bears. Yeah. We're gorillas in the zoo. If we're not essential, who is? You know?
Yeah. I'm going to Google their symptoms. I want to know what.
They were coughing and sneezing. Apparently they got it from one of the workers who was wearing a mask, but the gorillas weren't.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
So
hard to get them to wear the masks.
yeah, I only want to try.
Yeah.
So I guess with the other 8 gorillas in the enclosure, they're testing their feces for evidence of COVID-19, which would be the one time where not having your sense of smell would come in handy. Oh man! So we're either working for the machines or the gorillas.
Yeah. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, who knows, man? There's humor in between while we wait this thing out. The other thing I want to talk to you about today, and I almost feel this could be 2 separate podcasts, so I'm not sure if this will all be in one or I'll divvy it up, but they're related in the sense of self-promotion, so maybe I'll keep it here in the one. But YouTube has a new thing they're kind of rolling out to kind of harness what's working for TikTok and Instagram stories as far as the vertical video on your phone. Mm-hmm. And you've experimented with that a little bit. Just give us a little overview of what that is and maybe how comedians can use it and what you've learned so far.
Yeah, just like most things happening right now, everyone has like some kind of vertical video 10-second version thing. YouTube Shorts is what they're running with, and it is in beta testing, and they don't have, from my understanding right now in where I live, I don't have an app for YouTube Shorts, but so I'm using the regular YouTube app. And then all I'm doing is I'm taking the TikToks that I make and the Instagram Reels, and then I'm uploading them to my YouTube channel. And I'm just tagging them YouTube shorts in the tags when I upload them. And then I'm sure it sees that's a vertical video and just puts them in this different category. And I started playing around with this because I heard about it. And then I was already playing with making a TikTok and then putting it on Instagram. Then I was also turning around and I was putting it on Pinterest. And then I was putting it on now YouTube Shorts. And I was just kind of seeing like, where does the traffic come from? Because the downside of having something on Instagram or on TikTok is that it's not really searchable by Google. So that's what I'm really loving about YouTube Shorts is because now it's in Google and they love YouTube. So of course it's going to be at the top of whatever category. But yeah, like first day I uploaded just a short little joke about my car, and within 24 hours maybe I got 600 views, and I was like, that's great, and then I got some thumbs up and I got a couple of subscribers, so I was like, that's cool. So then I just the next day I uploaded 2 or 3, and then the following day I did another 2 or 3, and then by the third day in I had a video that got what was it, like 6,000 views right away, just like immediately to 6,000, and it still gets views here and there, but that's what I'm noticing is that like it's almost just to the immediate bump within 24 to 48 hours, and then it kind of trickles out. But yeah, I'm just turning around and putting all the content that I've been making for the last 2 years on there, and I think I've gotten in the last like 10 days, like maybe 9 or 10 subscribers, and I've gotten maybe 10,000 views or more, maybe 11,000 now. But, it's like every time I look at it, there's like one of the videos has another 200 views here and there. And it's just like traction that I don't see anywhere else on YouTube, and the ability of the searchable. I can look in the analytics too and see that it's all from YouTube Shorts. So. Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. So what I like about Shorts is primarily in the back of my mind a way to drive more subscribers, because getting a typical video shared with a big bump like that, 600 views or 6,000 views, takes a lot of work to typically do that on YouTube. Yeah. But if they're putting it on what they call their different shelf, like if you put on your Facebook app, you see like the stories are at the top or whatever they call them, and that's a different shelf. So it's a different shelf on the homepage of YouTube that features these shorts. So if something happens to land there, then it's showing it to everybody who logs on to YouTube that day.
Yeah.
So you can potentially get a huge bump. And of course, someone else that's already up on that shelf resharing something from you is another way to get that extra traction. What I'm curious about is in your short videos, do you have a call to action to subscribe? Do you drop that in with just the clickable thing you typically do on a Facebook video, or is it automatically people just go in there and say, I like this guy?
Yeah, they just been, just like a YouTube video, they have all the ups and downs and the subscribe button right there. And I haven't been pushing subscribe or, making that call to action at all. because I'm just like testing. So I'll just, even the bios I've been playing around with of like, this is a clip from this, or like, trying to think of SEO of like what angle they could be searching and helping, and then just having like a link to my website. Because in my mind, that's all I was doing it for, was a link to my website and just have more traction. But yeah, I'm kind of like, okay, I'm 10 days in, let's make this like a real thing. So now I'm kind of like planning it out more of like, I'm going to build a nice bio for the shorts. And then I'm also going to like maybe edit the videos and add at the end, hey, hit subscribe, it's right there type of thing. So
when you say a bio for the shorts, are you saying that it shows it on a certain page where you could have your little blurb about you, just like your home page on your YouTube channel? It just got a little bit.
Just like a podcast, like you have show notes. Mm-hmm. It's like the same thing. And you can just kind of throw anything in there. So I think what I want to do is kind of build things that they're clearly, and the goal is at some point this is going to be all mobile, right? So I'm building the description thinking about that, of like what is good on mobile, where should they head, how should they, mm-hmm. and maybe push them all to Spotify to listen to the podcast or something, and just kind of building out the links and the word choices that I'm going to use in the description of like, because when I post like a video of any sort, like let's say it's a joke or whatever, I start it with comedian Zack Lyman. So that way it's SEO of like comedy, mm-hmm. Zack Lyman. And then, I lead into like about the joke, but like the word choices is maybe something I used Google keywords or something, and I found the right words that are highly searched to put them all together. So then it helps boost it. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking about that more, of like building out like what are searchable words on mobile. So I can kind of help out like when they're not on YouTube and they're just like in Google on their phone searching for something.
Gotcha. And that's all those links we put into the bio is a huge advantage over Instagram, because Instagram with external links, if I remember correctly, limits you to one basically in your little blurb at the top, and in your actual post it limits it to hashtags for the most part. It's hard to link outside of Instagram.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Yeah. And the other thing, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I've already forgot what I was going to say. Go ahead.
Oh. Well, now I feel terrible about
that. No, it happens a lot.
What I was gonna say is like you're touching on Instagram, and like they have Instagram Reels, and I have friends that are like very into that. But Instagram Reels, I've had videos take off and get 10,000, 11,000. I have like a handful that are like in that range on there, and I don't think any of them got me a single follower, or didn't start a conversation, or no thumbs up, or it's like some likes and stuff, but and these are technically a lot of the same videos, but it's interesting how like their version, it just seems to not even help their own app, and it also doesn't as easily have the subscribe button or the follow button for Instagram just right there. So I'm like, I think I'm done with Instagram Reels, and I'm like, and I think we're going to just focus on the YouTube Shorts more.
It seems like a good move. And I assume the YouTube Shorts stay there. They don't disappear after 24 hours or a week. Yeah. They're part of your channel and your library. My last little question on YouTube Shorts before we wrap up is, do those videos show up in a different playlist on your main channel?
No. So right now they look awkward, because they look like I just didn't know what I was doing. Like the thumbnail is very much like they do it where it's still in the YouTube framing, and then you can see black bars on the side. So it's clunky that way, and you can upload a thumbnail, and I'm playing with that a little bit, but I was worried of some of these other countries maybe, or other places just in the world where maybe they already have the beta app, or maybe they already have, I don't know how it's looking on everyone's phone. So I've been kind of just leaving it as is and not really doing that. But yeah, when you go to my YouTube channel, you can it just looks like he uploaded a video from his phone,
That's cool. So, well, man, you helped us out a lot today. There's already things I'm trying to take from this and put to use. And I'll make sure I'll transcribe this full interview, shoot it to you so you can use it for anything you want.
Awesome.
And also put the full interview on the show notes and include the links that we'll talk about now. So Zach's got a few things he can do for you. First off, go to YouTube, search Zack Lyman, Lyman, subscribe to what he's doing, and you can see this stuff pop up in your YouTube feed daily as he learns the system. You'll be learning, watching a guy learn. So there's no better thing than that. So give him a subscribe and a follow. And then for the tip sheet for the Facebook ads, you can either send me a link that I'll put in. If there's an easy way for them to find it on your website, though, feel free to mention that as well.
Yeah. I'll send you a link. I don't have like it literally the ebook just came out the other day, so I don't have like a short link to give you. But yeah, it'll be in the show notes, or you can see it on my social media. I've been posting about it since it's so new. So yeah, there's that.
Very good. And then if you want to listen to his podcast, which I don't know why you wouldn't after hearing him on this podcast, you can go to ZackLymanPodcast.com, and he's got several. I mean, how many episodes are you into now? You don't number them, so.
Yeah, I don't know at this point. Probably 70 episodes in or so.
That's cool. That's cool. And he covers a lot of topics. And if you're a new comic, he's got plenty of information for you in there, and he's got some great interviews with some others too, as well, solo episodes. So get to know Zack Lyman, everybody. And are you on Twitter as well?
Yeah, at Zack Lyman.
All right. So it's ZackLyman. Follow him on Twitter. Give him a little message. Say, hey, dude, I heard you on the podcast. Good information. Thanks a lot. And I'm sure you'll learn more from Zack down the road. Zack, it's been a great time catching up. I know you started listening to the podcast way back when.
Yeah. So thank you so much for having me, because I was telling you, I think I found the podcast when you were 3 episodes in, maybe, and I started it from 0. I was like, all right, let's listen all the way through, so yeah, very, very happy to be on the show. So thank you so much, Rick.
That's great. If I can ever help you out with your podcast or anything, let me know for sure, and I'll return the favor.
Awesome. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Zack.